trust that exactly where you are is where you're meant to be. So keep your chin up so your crown doesn't fall. Remember, you're royalty.
Cyn Doll here. Before we get started, subscribe here to my channel and then click on that bell notification so you're notified every single time I post another video. Today I am going to be myself 100%. So if you're a person who's easily offended, if you need somebody to talk like this the entire time, then this probably isn't the video for you. But black hair is also extremely coily. Combing it daily is not feasible or practical. The approach to black hair cannot be the same as other ethnicities. Not possible. The sad part about it is the majority of black women or people in general really believe this, even though the only thing that separates black hair from other groups is the routine and the patterns that are set. And that is the hardest part for most people to understand. You know the saying that a lot of us love, to much is given, much is required. Well, that goes directly to black women, okay? Because, or black people in general, somebody with naturally curly hair, whatever your race may be, okay? Because too much is given, much is required. The more disulfide bonds you have within the hair shaft, the curlier your hair is. So there is more required of you. You can comb your hair every single day with curly hair, but there are different things that you must do first. And there are certain myths that you have to get over in your head. Let's go over some of them. What you are looking at right now is the scalp under a microscope, right? And this is what dandruff looks like. Most women think that dry scalp and dandruff is the same thing, and that's not true. Dandruff is an infection of the scalp, all right? And this is caused by inflammation. And most women with naturally curly hair have inflammation because they believe that the hair shouldn't be combed as much. The hair shouldn't be manipulated as much as everybody else's. This is the human hair shaft. Whether you are white, black, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Peruvian, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is what the human hair shaft looks like, regardless of your race. When we are talking about the difference in race as it pertains to our hair in different ethnic groups, we are talking about the inner portion of the hair. The hair is broken down into 3 layers. The cuticle, which is what you're looking at right now, the cuticle, and then it is the cortex. The cortex is where the melanin in your hair lives, and it is where the protein lives that makes your hair curly. All right, so with this being said, there are 2 things that make your hair curly: the size of the follicle and the amount of disulfide bonds present within the hair's cortex. As you can see in this picture, somebody that is more so of a European background is going to have a more so oval shaped follicle, right? And because it's an oval shaped follicle, the hair has a slight bend as it's coming out, versus somebody of Asian descent, they're going to have a more so round follicle, a clear circle, right? And so it's not any pressure being put on the hair as it's coming out of the follicle, so there's no crinkle, there's no curl, versus a follicle that is more so on the flatter side. The flatter the follicle gets, the curlier the hair. So obviously this isn't demonstrating somebody with super duper curly hair, but the flatter the follicle, the curlier the hair. All right, that's when it's coming out of the hair shaft, out of the follicle. I apologize. But also, like I said, the second thing is the amount of sulfur to sulfur linkages that you have within the disulfide bond. Make sure you check the video below to get more info on that so you're not confused. But so far, that's what makes our hair curly. Now, this is an up close shot of the inside of the hair shaft. This is for every race, every ethnic group walking the face of the earth. There is no scientific evidence anywhere on this planet that shows that the follicle follicle of a black person or the hair shaft or this portion looks any different than anybody of any other race. Everyone has a cuticle layer, a cortex where the melanin and the different sulfur to sulfur linkages live, and then you have a medulla. Not everyone has a medulla. And then you can also see all of these other pieces of the hair shaft, but everyone's hair shaft looks just like that. So we can see so far we have not seen any separation from black people, a black woman's hair and a white woman's hair, or a woman from any other race. And I'm not separating it through race, but that is the conversation a lot of us like having. Again, internally we are all the same still at this point. The only thing that is different from anybody else is the way that our hair comes through the follicle and the amount of sulfur to sulfur linkages that we have, but the inner workings of the hair is all the same, which means that the science that we follow is all the same across the board. Our maintenance practices are just different. The truth is in our history when you look back. And when you look back in our history, there is no evidence of wash and goes. Our ancestors and the people that came before us were not doing wash and goes. They did not have styles that only took a little bit of time because it was so much work to do because the hair was curly. No, our ancestors and the people that came before us understood that for us to retain length the way that we're supposed to, we need to keep our hair stretched. I understand, okay, that's fine. A lot of people like the way that their hair looks naturally curly, and that's fine, but at the end of the day, I think we put a little bit too much emphasis on something that God made for our body to be able to do naturally. And these are the different scalp disorders that take place when we decide not to comb our hair because it's too much. One of these hair shaft disorders comes from mechanical force, right? And most people think that mechanical force is anything when you're combing your hair. No, mechanical force happens and mechanical damage happens when you put too much pressure on the hair shaft. But if your patterns and routines are right, doing your hair will be so easy to the point that there's no way that you're going to be causing fractures and tears to the hair shaft. The reality of it is, most women, when we sit down and think of our memories of doing our hair, our mothers or grandmothers, I'm not saying it's anything wrong, they didn't know. Some of them didn't know, not everybody, but they would rake through the hair and just pull and tug, and it would be painful and you crying and stuff while you getting your hair done. Our parents didn't really have the proper tools then, so they were putting mechanical damage on our hair, and as a result, there are so many different hair shaft disorders out. And the crazy thing is, because we don't know the basics and because we argue about the basics, somebody can come with something that sounds like a little bit of the truth and you're just gonna hop right on it. When you look at the one that looks like a knot, that is the scientific name for single strand knots. Single strand knots are split ends. All of these different types of breakage and things of that nature all have scientific names, all of them. So it's not something that's new, but it is something that cannot be seen with the naked eye. And most of these product lines know that. So they create products that put a cast over the hair shaft. So the second one that you're looking at, you can see if you have a whole bunch of cuts and displaced fibers, because hair is fiber, like it's a fiber. So you have a bunch of displaced fibers, so they give you a product that puts a cast on the hair, and then boom, they got you. Because you don't understand the science, you think that your hair is fixed, when in reality your hair actually has a band-aid on it. But the thing that breaks curly hair is not picking up a comb and a brush. It's not picking up a comb and a brush, because combs and brushes is something that licensed cosmetologists have been using for years. If combing the hair broke off everybody's hair, there will not be black women with hair to their butts that straighten and blow dry their hair every day. There are women who are straight naturals. That's the term that the kids are using now. The straight naturals have hair all the way down their back. Why? They're keeping their hair stretched, and it is easy for the natural oil to coat the hair shaft and keep it strong. But we need to stop making all of these differences. So far as you've seen on this video, there have been no wash and goes, and I'm sorry if it makes people feel away, but the difference between us and them is we're lazy. Most black women are not looking for hair care practices to help them along on their journey. Most black women are looking for the easy way out. What's the quickest way I can do my hair? Something real fast. But I need you to remember, most black women are complaining about shampooing their hair more than once a week, when the women that they're comparing themselves to are shampooing their hair and blow drying it every single day. Yes, it doesn't take them as long, right? Because their hair isn't curly. But how would you feel? Oh, that's cute. How would you feel if when every single day when you woke up in the morning, you had to get in the shower, shampoo your hair, condition it, round brush it, blow dry it, and flat iron it every single day before you go? Like, listen, you don't really have to do that much. Like, as a black woman, you really don't have to do that much. Yes, it's curlier, so it's going to take longer. It'll be more time consuming. You have to set a certain pattern, and when you have a certain pattern, your hair will not break and it will not shed. You are the truth. Ever since I've started keeping my scalp clear and clean, I started to see my edges grow drastically. I used to douse my edges with JBCO and seen no progress at all. I only moisturize my hair strands and let my scalp breathe. Your channel is a big help. Now that you know the difference scientifically, genetically, right? Now you know that everything is the same except for the way that the hair comes out of the follicle. That is the only difference. So because everything is the same, the only thing that is different is the way that we take care of the hair. This is coming from a licensed cosmetologist. I've been a licensed cosmetologist for over 17 years, right? And my clients were not just African American. They were not. Some of my clients, actually about 35% of my clients, were from other races, and I used the same exact products on their hair as I did on my other clients that were black, because the only difference was the routine once they left. And the only difference that I would make throughout all of my clients would be their porosity. That's what was different, not their race, but their porosity and their everyday routines. So here on the screen, what you are seeing is the cuticle, right? Wrong, we looking at the follicle, my bad girl. So you will see that the one closer to the left side of the screen, well, my left, because I'm looking at it, I don't know, maybe you're right, that is the one that is a healthy follicle. Again, this is what everybody's hair looks like inside of the follicle. Everybody's. You have that sweat gland, and I also want you to pay attention to the sebaceous gland that is producing oil. I also want you to pay attention to how it's all connected there, and how the hair is coated in oil before it ever reaches out of the follicle. So if your hair comes out of your scalp with oil, then what would be the next thing that you do? Of course, you want to make sure that the scalp is clean and clear so that that oil can come out, because you can see that space is very narrow. As it pertains to your hair follicle is not some big old hole that as soon as you put something down there is just going to seep through. No, it doesn't work like that. When your hair is coming through the follicle, it is already coated with oil. You can clearly see it in this illustration. The little squiggly lines that you see, that is sebum. So As you move along, the little blue dots that you see, that is also bacteria, right? So I want you to pay attention to that. In the lower corner, you can see what all of the different things represent. Now, what you are seeing is a buildup of sebum within the hair shaft. And what you will also notice at the very top where the hair is trying to come out, it's being blocked. Now, the bacteria is always there. We have good and bad bacteria, but the blocked follicle makes it super hard for anything to get out, extremely hard for anything to get out. What are most black women's practices? Most black women cover their scalps full of oils and butters. And one argument that a lot of people have been making is like, oh, Indian women put oil in their scalp and massage, but you know what else they do? They wash their hair in the morning. They don't put oils and butters into their scalp and massage it and then skip shampooing their hair for 6 months. That's not what happens. So these women use oil because they understand that the oil is treating something. It is treating a form of scalp inflammation, just like the cloves are doing, just like the fenugreek is doing. Cloves and fenugreek are not growing your hair. Cloves and fenugreek and all of these herbs you guys are using in your scalp, is all it's doing is killing the bacteria that has not been allowed to escape because of the products that you've been putting on the scalp. As you can see on this picture, the more the follicle is blocked, and when I'm saying follicle is blocked, the more butters and oils are on the scalp, the more that small entryway is blocked, the more bacteria and yeast is stuck within the follicle. And as it is stuck in there, it begins to attack the body. And you can see that it gets more and more inflamed. And at this point, you now have an itchy scalp. Now you have a painful scalp. Now sometimes your scalp hurts to touch. It's burning all the time. It's itching all the time. This is because there is scalp inflammation, and it is so simple. The fix is so simple. Just stop greasing the scalp. Stop blocking the follicle, and the inflammation will leave, guaranteed. By the time your hair has poked through the follicle, it is old hair, and it's time for you to do nothing but maintenance. Hair growth starts on the inside, and once your hair has poked through the follicle, your only job is making sure that there is a clear pathway down the hair shaft. Your hair, as it pokes through the follicle, is already coated with oil. So your job is to make sure that you do the certain types of styles that A, reduce the amount of manual manipulation that you're doing to your hair, and B, make it easy for the natural sebum to travel from the scalp all the way down to the ends. That is the only difference between black women who have long hair and other races of women that have long hair. Most black women do not comb their hair on a regular basis, so they can't drag the sebum from the scalp to the ends. And better yet, most black women, the sebum never comes out of the scalp because the scalp and the follicle is blocked full of oils and butters, because we don't understand that God already gave us natural oil. I'm sorry, but anybody that tries to separate you and put you in a different category as a black woman is somebody that is trying to sell you a product, period. Because the only thing that is different between you and somebody with naturally straight hair is the routine and the pattern that you set for yourself. Because as a black woman, if you decide to get a relaxer or a texturizer and you take out some of those sulfur to sulfur linkages and you have straight hair, you then have the same exact practices as somebody who has naturally straight hair. It is just a little easier for you to keep your hair stretched. That is just as simple as that. I'm not saying that, oh, you should never do a wash and go, but a wash and go is something like a frontal, right? Wash and goes and frontals should be those things that we're doing like once every blue moon, because the majority of the time, if you are trying to do low manipulative styles, when you are doing wash and goes, there's nothing low maintenance and low manipulation about a wash and go. For you to do a wash and go properly, you have to shampoo your hair, then you have to put a crap load of product on every single piece of your hair and then diffuse it. And then at night before you go to bed, you need to comb through your hair, right? Because your hair is packed full of product, layers and layers of product. So you need to comb that out so the cuticle can actually breathe and have oxygen flow, because the cortex does need oxygen flow, which is why the cuticle has porosity. It opens and closes. All right, so I need you guys to pay attention to that. There are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts with anything. We need to start listening to people who have actually spent their lives on giving us certain types of education, but we don't do that. We just listen to the person who has the most views, the person that is talking the best, the person whose words make us feel the best. But in reality, it's not true. As a Black woman, if you set a routine for yourself the same way that you set a routine to brush your teeth and to shower, if you set a routine like that, your hair will not break combing it. I comb my daughter's hair and my hair twice a day, every single day. And when we are wearing protective styles, when our hair is braided, I take a Q-tip and I have a cleansing mixture, and I cleanse me and my daughter's scalp. If you want to cleanse your scalp, you can use something as simple as rose water. Rose water has the same exact pH as your hair and scalp. So you could go ahead, cleanse the scalp with some rose water. I hope I said rose and not rice. I'm talking about rose water. Cleanse your scalp with rose water and then sit under a dryer for like 10-15 minutes or however long it takes the scalp to dry, so you're not walking around with wet hair. And it is as simple as that. But to say that Black women cannot comb through their hair and stuff like that is not really a very, very smart statement to make. Black women can and must comb their hair. Again, none of our ancestors were walking around with wash and goes. All of our ancestors that had extremely long hair had so many different types of stretched styles, and that's what makes Black people so amazing, because we thought of so many different things. And in closing, I want you guys to think about something. All of these different styles that have been going up on the screen, they took hours, probably even days. So I want you to think about it. Like, again, to much is given, much is required. And if you are a Black woman, you have more. So there is more required of you. Your ancestors didn't spend 5 seconds doing their hair. Your ancestors made ritual out of doing their hair. It was a whole ritual. All right. It took time. These braids, these styles did not take a couple of minutes. It wasn't something real quick. There was no and go at the end of anything when it comes to our essence and where we really came from. And if we actually take accountability and do the work and stop looking for shortcuts, my love, there is no shortcut for you. And in my opinion, that's why everybody else go viral so fast, because they let you know that there is a shortcut. They telling you what you want to hear. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And what you need to hear is there is no shortcut for you. If you want to have your hair healthy, your skin healthy, your body healthy, or anything, you need to set routines, set patterns that match your intentions. What do you want? What is wrong with your scalp? What is the cause? And when you find the cause, then you can assess the cure easily. But I want you guys to know, we need to work on all of these different hair shaft disorders that are on the screen. It is not as simple as that. And most of these hair shaft disorders are disorders that Black women have because we do not comb our hair enough. And so because you don't comb your hair enough, it's the same thing if you sit down in the same spot for 2 hours. When you get up, your legs are gonna be weak, like whoa, and you can't just get up and start sprinting and running if you've been sitting down for hours. It don't work like that. You gotta move slow. So most black women will keep their hair in a weave for 3-4 months and then want to rake through and comb through their hair without using proper procedures. There are proper procedures that go with everything. And if something is hard for you, if you feel like as a black women can't comb their hair, there is something, my love, that you do not know. And instead of you attacking what you don't know, just ask so you can understand. But black women can and should and must comb their hair, because there is no difference between us and anybody else. All right, we just have more. The average person loses anywhere from 100 to 150 strands of hair per day. So to say that a woman who has curly hair that's going to catch everything that falls because it's in a coil, to say that woman shouldn't comb her hair makes absolutely no sense, you guys. I really want us to start looking into the science of things and really start thinking about the decisions that we make. Let's start thinking about the sayings that we repeat, because we're repeating these things out of repetition because they're things that we're used to hearing, but that doesn't mean that they're factual or that they make sense, because they don't. Don't forget to join my 7-day hair growth challenge if you need help breaking down your old foundation and building a new one. I will hold your hand the whole way through, step by step, and you'll become a part of a community of over 100 women that are doing it right along with you. So join now, link in the description box below, and check this next video out right here because I go even deeper into what we were talking about today.